Welcome to Helping Kids Be Kids, the Little Lighthouse podcast, where we help parents of kids with special needs be confident caregivers. The Little Lighthouse is a Christian developmental center for children ages birth to 6, and our mission is to glorify God by improving the quality of life for children with special needs, their families, and their communities. I'm your host, Christina McEndorfer. Today, we're going to be talking about virtual learning, and with me in the studio today, I have Kristen Neary and Audrey King. And I'd love for you guys just to start today by sharing a little bit about who you are and how you're connected to the Little Lighthouse. We'll start with you, Kristen.
Okay, hi. My name is Kristen Neary, but all the students in the classroom call me Kiki.
Aww.
And I've been at the Little Lighthouse for 4 years now.
Wow.
I was introduced, let me give you my my fun fact. My interesting fact about myself is that I am a 3rd degree black belt in Shotokan Karate.
Don't mess with her.
I was introduced to the world of special needs through substitute teaching. I substitute taught for Broken Arrow Public Schools, and I went into this. I accepted a job on their website that it was for a paraprofessional, but I didn't know what that meant. So when I walked in, I was like, oh, okay, special needs ministry. All right, let's do this. And I just absolutely fell in love with the children. And so from then on, that was the only substitute job that I would take is in the special needs rooms. And then I found out my church was looking for volunteers, and so I started volunteering in the special needs ministry at church. I met my best friend there, and her daughter was a student at the Little Lighthouse.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so she told me about the Little Lighthouse, and then she told me they were hiring, so I put in my application. And
what a good friend.
Yeah.
Wow, and the rest is history.
That's right.
That's neat. And you started as an assistant teacher?
Yes, I started as a part-time associate teacher, and then I went to full-time associate, and now I'm lead teacher in the classroom.
Which is as it should be.
Yes.
You're such a gifted teacher. I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad. And then Audrey?
She's awesome. She's an awesome teacher, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, guys. My name is Audrey King. I am the Orange class teacher at the Lighthouse. I have been at the Lighthouse for 3 years now. When I first started, I was the pink class teacher, and then I was the purple class teacher, and now the orange class teacher. I love the Lighthouse and all the kids. Kind of what brought me there was I just felt I've been in public education for 16 years, and at the time that I was teaching first grade, I was getting ready to make another move, and I didn't want to drive back and forth to the school that I was at. I loved the school I was at, but I was like, wow, that's going to be like a long drive. So I started looking at other opportunities, and I made a trip to Oklahoma City, and at Oklahoma City, I saw a lighthouse, and I had just kind of been thinking, something else prompted me about it, and this, Holy Spirit was talking to me about it, and I was like, wow, the Lighthouse, I don't know, maybe I should check into that. And so I went on the website and contacted the boss, the director of education, and she said, yes, we have several openings. And so I went and interviewed, and they hired me, and I've loved it. I absolutely love working there. I feel like that I was called there, and I told the people at my public school, I said, I don't think I'll ever go out of, public school, out of teaching, unless I go into the ministry. And so I was thinking like a church. Like I was thinking, I'm going to go into a church, or I'm going to, work, in something in the church world. I never thought that the Lighthouse was a ministry. And then I remember one day during flock, someone was referring to the Lighthouse as a ministry. And I was like, oh my goodness, God really, that happened. God was right about that. Like I left public school to go into a ministry. And I was I was so happy that I, followed his word and his direction. So.
Wow. Those are great stories. I love how the Lord really does call people to work at the Little Lighthouse. It really is a ministry.
I learn stuff from Audrey every year. I don't think she knows that, but I do. What's your interesting fact?
Well, I love biking, so I don't really know if I have an interesting fact, but I love to bike. And on my vision board this year was to ride in 4 bike rallies, but that's not happened yet.
I mean, there's still 6 more months in this year.
Right? I'm trying.
We'll see. Great. Well, so you are both invited to be here today because you are shining stars in this transition from on-site classroom teaching, which is your comfort zone. You've been doing this a long time. And then all of a sudden, we're going to have to shift gears and learn how to teach kids with special needs, preschoolers with special needs through Zoom or, going to figure out a way to still engage with them, still feed into them virtually. So I can only imagine, how did you even process that?
Kristen, you want to go first?
It was, I was not sure how to process it. I didn't know what I was going to do because most of the kids, in my classroom, in the choral class, most of the kids don't talk yet. So the idea of trying to teach someone over the internet or virtually, I had no idea how to even start that. I didn't know what I was going to teach them. I didn't know how I was going to be able to get a reaction out of them. And so my mind was both blank and reeling at the same time. And so it took me a little bit to process all of that.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah, and I would say for me, that part was a little bit easier about how to. I had to go through the process of, I'm kind of a big picture girl, so I had to look at the whole picture and then kind of go backwards in my thinking. So the first thing I had to establish is, okay, I'm going to have Wi-Fi at my house, which I did not, and I'm in a rural area, so I had to solve that problem first. So I got that problem solved, and then I had to look at the software that was on my laptop. Did it match the software that was at the Lighthouse that I use every day? Because we have certain software that controls our smart board, which is where our circle time is. And so I had to look at that and make sure that those things were communicating right. Then I had to look at what my parents' needs were. Were they going to be able to participate? Did they have the technology? Did they have Wi-Fi? Did they have a laptop or an iPad or, a phone that would work with that? So those were just the logistics that we started with. And then once we had all of that stuff accomplished, then we went into the mode of, okay, what is this really going to look like? How are we going to get a 4, 5, or 6-year-old to sit and look at a computer screen and listen to us talk?
Because you have a really active class.
Yes, I have a very active class, and they are all they're all mobile and they're all verbal. So I knew that it was a possibility, but I just had to figure out what it looked like. And so then I started thinking at it from the parent's point of view. So I was like, okay, so if I have a child that has, say, autism or Downs, and they just have a really hard time sitting and keeping their attention, what do I need to do? Okay, I need to get rid of the toys in the room. I need to make the learning environment the same every time. I need to start their day consistently with breakfast and getting dressed as they would go to school. I need to make sure the pets are not in the room. I need to make sure that the noise level is down, and keeping even as simple as what chair they sat in. Everything needed to be as consistent as possible. And then we established a name for their parent. So I said, I want everybody to refer to, you as a parent, you're going to be called a learning buddy. So when I would ask questions, I would ask, okay, learning buddy, what do you think? And then engage the parent that way with the instruction. And that way the student, had that parent right there with them, and they felt like that, they weren't doing it all by themselves. Those things were really, really key to being effective. And then once we had all that established, then we started going into the content of what we were going to teach. So
you used a lot of wisdom in your approach. I really love how you were thinking through how to help the parents be successful and coaching them through making a rhythm or routine so their kids still felt like they were in school.
Yeah, for sure. Because, the whole point was, the content was important, but for my age kids, most of them were graduating, so the content really was pretty important. But before we can get to the content, the first thing we had to master was the engagement, was them to be able to sit and listen, was them to be able to maintain focus, was the process not to be too heavy for the parent. Because it's hard going from being a parent to now being a parent teacher.
Yeah.
That's a tough transition. So we just had to so I tried to just really put on the lens of the parent and try to see things from what they would be struggling with and what things they would struggle with, or what problems they would face.
I don't know about you, but for me, every time got a little bit better because it was all trial and error. Try this. Oh, well, that didn't work. So how about we do it this way? Hey, that works great. Let's build on that. So every week it got better and better.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say that one of those components was when we first started, the kids would come on the Zoom very first thing, and I would have everybody unmuted because I wanted that socialization. So everybody could talk at the same time, and I was like, okay, this is great. Everybody was smiling. Everybody was happy to see their friends. And then I tried to let the students or the learning buddy control the mute button, and I thought, and that didn't work. So immediately I was like, no, I have to be in control of the whole session. So I told the learning buddies, hey, let me do all the muting, unmuting. That way when I ask a question, I can say, like, Catherine, what color is the sky? And then I hit the unmute button. Catherine responds, and then I immediately mute her back. And that way the learning session was as less chaotic as I could facilitate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And then they don't have to think about the logistics. They just get to participate.
That's right. Yeah.
One other thing I'll say for our class is since the kids weren't verbal, it really became a good break for the parents because the parents were then able to say, hey, this is what we're going through, and it's great to be able to talk to other people. And so it was just as important for the parents to be able to do the virtual learning as it was for the kids.
Kristen, that's amazing. And I was in touch with one of your parents who actually moved to a different state during that time.
Yes.
And they were able to stay connected. I'm sure that was a huge lifeline for them.
It was. And it was so great to be able to keep up with the student and see how he was doing. And yeah, being able to reach out to her because I don't know if she had if she knew anybody up there, but being able to meet with her once a week was great.
That's neat. You guys are masters at this. How did your students respond?
Oh, man. Our first Zoom session, in fact, we were scheduled to come back, I think March 26th after spring break. And I had told my parents, hey, we're not going to meet today. We're going to start our Zooms on Tuesday. And, problem solved and got everything ready to go. And then my parents started texting me that Monday morning and was like, hey, are we Zooming? Are we Zooming? And I was like, well, let's just try it out. So we went ahead and started connecting everybody. And I will never forget the kids' faces. When they saw their friends, it was just honestly, the joy of the Lord was all over that computer screen. I was crying. It was just amazing how happy they were. And I just thought, the content, I'm such a huge academic content pusher, but the socialization that they received during our virtual learning time was honestly priceless. It was amazing.
Are any of those videos online?
I don't have my first one. I wish I would have recorded my first one. I do have some recorded, but I just kind of did hit and miss because as we were learning, like Kristen said, as we were learning the process, every time we did it, we learned a little something extra or a little something new. Because for most of us, we had used Zoom very limited. Google Classroom was a very limited. There was just so many things that we had to learn before we could teach it to others.
Big learning curve.
A big learning curve.
Yeah. Well, I'm so proud of you guys for really leaning into that because I know it can be very frustrating to learn all of that, but it's just a tool. And so you have to be proficient enough that you can then teach other people how to use it. You did an awesome job.
Yeah, so true.
One of the great things that I was able to see is I have a student who does a whole bunch of stuff at home, talks a lot at home, but then when he comes to school, he doesn't want to say anything. And if he does speak, it's very quiet whispers. So when we were on Zoom, he was at home with mom and he'd say stuff and we were like, yay! And then he was like, oh, wait, they can hear me. And then he'd stop. So we had to stop cheering quite as much, but it was great to be able to see them, they're most comfortable in their home. So there are some kids who are going to do more while they're at home. And so having that virtual learning, just to see them in their comfort setting and see them do just that much more. It was great. So, there were goals that I was able to mark off just because I saw him doing it on Zoom at home.
Wow.
It was great.
I've always thought that making the connection between home and school is so important because you also hear the reverse where kids will do things at school that they don't do at home.
Right.
So it's really nice to see them in all of their contexts.
Yes.
That's really cool. Well, Kristen, I know that you love teaching and you're very, very creative. So how did you adapt your creative expression of teaching into a virtual environment?
Well, let's see. While I like structure, I also I don't want things to get boring. So I will. Like for our Zoom meetings, we would always start off with the exact same song every single time, and I'd sing it to them, and it was the same song that I would sing to them every morning, first thing in the classroom. So when a couple of kids, when they heard that song, their faces just lit up and they were so excited. So that got them to realize, okay, this is just like school. It just looks different. But then, changing things up. Sometimes, like some of the video teaching that I did was aimed at student participation. And then there were some times that we did videos that were, let's teach the parents how to teach their kids. That way, the parents felt like they had a little bit of something to hold on to. So that they could teach their kids at home. So, and we were also, my family serves at our church. So we were asked to make, just one time it was, hey, can you make a little video recapping the Bible story for this Sunday? And we turned it into this huge thing where like now every week we're making these videos that talk about our Bible story. And so that really helped too. So I've been able to, kind of bring that into the teaching, but then that gave me ideas for the Little Lighthouse, and the Little Lighthouse gave me ideas for our family videos. And so it's been great.
Synergy.
Yes.
I'd love to double back. You were saying that you created some resources to help parents teach their own kids.
Yes.
And that's why we're here today. We love empowering parents. So do you mind sharing a couple of the tips that you were passing along to the parents in your class?
So one of the videos that I did was, I think it was when we were talking about Easter and how Jesus was praying in the garden. And so I had my kids helping me. That helped out a lot with the creativity. It was having my teenagers. But we just went out into the backyard, and it's like, okay, so you've got grass. What can you talk about grass? You can talk about the color. You can talk about how it feels. You can talk about how it lives in the dirt. And then now you've got dirt. You can talk about dry dirt, wet dirt, the color of it, the feel of it, and then trees and flowers, and just telling them all the different things that you can take this one thing that you look at it and go, yep, that's a blade of grass, but there are 6 different things that you can teach with this one blade of grass. And then you've also got counting. And so, yeah, it was just all these different things that unless you're a teacher, you might not necessarily think about.
Yeah.
But just to put that out there and be like, hey, look at what you can do with everyday things that you have either in your house or in your backyard.
Yes. I love the statement, talking is teaching.
Yes.
Yeah. And so when you're thinking, well, giving kids context, they don't know these things. Like,
Right.
you know so much they don't know, and just give them the vocabulary to process and experience their world.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So as a teacher, you're looking at shapes, colors, numbers, sounds. And so that's kind of the worldview you come at when you're having those conversations, right?
Absolutely. Because, those are all things that everybody learns when they're a little bitty. So when we're teaching our kids, those are the very basic things. They're things that we think about automatically. Like we don't even give it a conscious thought. It's all subconscious. But for them, they've never had those conscious thoughts before, so they can't have them in their subconscious. So we've got to teach it to them.
I just learned something. So good. All right. So what kind of feedback did you get from parents through the virtual learning?
So I don't know if I ever got like direct feedback, but I did see a couple people were sharing like pictures or videos of their kids watching videos. And so they were like, yeah, anytime I want my child to brush their teeth, I have to put on this video of Miss Kristen doing the teeth brushing video. So I did have one parent say, my child won't get out of the bathtub unless I let them watch a video of you teaching a lesson. So just little things like that. So it was really good to know that the kids were getting something out of it, even if it was, just to see my face. I don't know, but they were enjoying the videos, and that was just perfect.
That's cool. This sounds like a great resource. Is this a Facebook that the public has access to?
Yes, I believe so.
What's the name of it? How can we get there? Is it Little Lighthouse Teachers?
Yeah, the Little Lighthouse Teachers page. That's where they're at.
Okay, perfect. And the therapist did one too.
Yes.
Which has also some really great resources. Okay, great. Well, this has been a really fun conversation. I was wondering if you guys have like your favorite tip that you would want to pass on to other teachers who might be listening to this and having to embrace the same process.
I would just say that don't let fear or things that are unknown stop you from trying new things. I know in our class we had OT and speech. We had those every week. So our occupational therapist would come onto our Zoom and she would lead a lesson, and we would email the parents the Friday before the week's lesson. So like they would get lesson plans on Friday with things that they might need, and then we would have the lesson on Monday through Thursday of the next week. And so our occupational therapist did a great job, and so did our speech therapist. So both of those ladies did lessons for us twice a week, and we just incorporated that along with the letter that we were working on that week or with the Bible study that we were in. And it just, an important part, as Kristen was saying, was, she said that, we don't know exactly what the parents got or the kids got out of everything, but she said for the child to be able to see her face, that's where we started at. When we tried to figure out what we were going to do, we thought, what do the kids need? And in a time such as this, as the COVID and the world is in such chaos, and the kids' world, the parents' world is definitely rocked, but the children's worlds are rocked as well. Nothing looks the same. And so just for them to see their peers' faces and to see their teachers' faces and to hear that same song that they started with at school, that was honestly priceless, because that gave them such peace, something to hold on to in the midst of the storm. So I would just say that, teachers out there, don't let the big ideas scare you, because they are possible. They really are possible. Just break it down into little pieces until you feel like, you got it, and it'll work out. Trust us, it will.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say be flexible, knowing that, you could have the perfect lesson plan and you could have it on paper that everybody has all the equipment and all the tools that they need, and then, the internet shuts down because there's something going on with a cable outside and a squirrel. You have no idea what's going to happen. So just be flexible. Try, if you want to have a lesson plan, that's great. You can try to follow that. But if things go off and something happens where you're not able to do that, it's okay. Because any little thing that you do with those kids is going to be beneficial, even if it's not everything you want to do.
For sure. Yep.
There's so much grace in that. Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape.
There you go.
Well, we're going to wrap up with one last question. As teachers of amazing little kiddos who happen to have special needs, what does it mean to you to help kids be kids?
All right. Well, the kids at the Little Lighthouse, they're just like any other child. They want to learn, they want to play, they want to be kids. Because they have special needs, oftentimes their lives are filled with doctor's appointments and therapy, and they're not always necessarily able to do all the things that their typically developing siblings or neighbors are doing. So to help kids be kids, I feel like we're doing everything that we can to give them the same type of childhood, even if that means doing it with adaptations as everybody around them. We want them to have amazing childhood memories.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess I would add that, adults, just don't quit. Don't forget to be kids. Don't forget to be silly and laugh. Our class looks extremely crazy most days, whether we're on Zoom or whether we're physically in the building. And just little things like singing silly songs and making silly faces and acting silly and just getting down on their level, they can relate to that. And those type of things will be the most lasting memories in their childhood. They will remember when their mom or their dad acted silly at a birthday party, or at a dinner session, or wore a napkin, over their head and, pretended to be, somebody different. And they just will remember those. So I would just say, keep laughing, keep smiling, and share God's love.
Yeah, remember why you had your kids in the first place.
That's right.
Well, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please consider joining the crew, a passionate and determined group of monthly givers on mission to discover solutions that change the future of kids with special needs. To learn more about the Little Lighthouse, please explore www.littlelighthouse.org. Until next time, enjoy your kids.